Welcome to Call to Purpose. This is our first podcast. I'm here with Toni Riley. Call to Purpose, I'm actually the founder, Amy Coppola. Call to Purpose was founded to help people during COVID get back on track, and it's kind of evolved into a coaching, connecting clients and coaches together to help find purpose and get people back on track in life. I'm here with Toni, and we're going to talk about how we got to this point and some of the events that have happened in our life. Toni wrote a book, Bright Side of Broken, which we'll get into. We met in 2000, and corporate America.
Corporate America.
Yes.
And I remember the first day that I met you, I had just gotten hired on to transfer down from Chicago area.
Yep.
And I remember starting to learn the ropes, and I didn't know a soul.
Yeah.
And
we were in a big cube farm in a
Cube
manufacturing facility.
Yep.
Yes.
And I came up to you to ask you, like, where is so-and-so? Because I didn't know anybody.
Right.
And you showed me the way on where to go and who was who.
Yeah.
And then you invited me to Bunko. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I didn't know what the heck Bunko was.
Yeah. All the people from the Midwest had moved down to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a way to just build a community and get to know each other.
And being in that corporate environment kind of felt like being in a small town. I don't know if you got the same feel, but it was
definitely.
It was a large company, but
yes,
everybody knew what everybody else was doing, so that made it kind of
small townish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was fun, and a lot of Midwest values, and just kind of mixed with the Texas culture. And it was a lot of fun. It was a great time.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And
yeah,
I just felt immediate connection to you, and
yeah,
we still have that. It continues on now.
we do. Yes, we continue to help people and give back where we can. Yeah. And then, fast forward, right? We were 2-3 years here in Texas together. And then a lot of that manufacturing went overseas. And let's talk about where you headed from that point.
I worked in the corporate world until the year 2007.
Okay.
When I got transferred down to Texas, I realized once I was here that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
I had these expectations that wasn't what I was hoping.
You had a different manager, I think, than you thought you originally were going to have.
I was going to be working for one person.
Right.
They were super excited to have me on, and then I ended up, the first day I found out I was going to be working for somebody else.
Right.
And so which was fine, but I didn't know what to expect, and I was not happy. I was not happy in that environment. And then that took another 7 years because I had transferred down in 2000.
Right.
So I was like, well, here I am. And so when I left, before I left, I realized I had come to Christ, which is a whole nother story.
Right.
But I was like, okay, God. So I kind of started letting God tell me what He created me for.
Right.
And there's a book called Your Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren, which I highly recommend. That was the first book that I had read as a Christian.
Right.
And so I found out that I like to help people. And working in corporate environment wasn't really helping people.
It was challenging, yes.
It was extremely challenging.
Yeah.
So I started working out they had a gym in the facility, and I used to go on my lunch hour.
Yeah.
Started training for a marathon, met a girl, the trainer there, and I inspired her to run a marathon, and she inspired me to become a trainer, and that's what I ended up doing. Like, I think I want to be a personal trainer.
Yeah. And
So,
I, of course, thought she was crazy. Like, how could you leave corporate America and go do your own thing? Isn't it scary?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And I was like, I didn't know how I was going to find another job. I had no idea.
Right.
But I knew I was going to stay at Motorola until something else came up.
Right.
So then, fast forward to 2007, I was pregnant, found out that our department was getting outsourced to China.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of the people affected by
Wow.
the move. And I was so excited because I knew I couldn't just up and quit.
Right.
Like I was like, that would seem irresponsible.
Right.
So it was like someone's going to have to like remove this job from me.
Right.
And so I was told that
Wow.
we were being outsourced, and I was like, yes. And my manager knew that I wanted to, that I didn't want to be there anymore, and she was very happy for me and
Right.
with pursuing personal training. So
Right.
I ended up, that became a huge blessing because I got severance package, got unemployment, got
That is a benefit of corporate, right? You get a severance package. And
started my business, had my baby, and
that's great.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm similar, right? It was 2000 when we met, and I had just moved down from Chicago, was relocated, and I think I was there 3 or 4 years, and we started to have layoffs. Everything was moving overseas. I think I made it to one of the last rounds in my department, and they said you can either find another position within the company or take the package and leave. And I chose to move to DC. So I moved to Washington, D.C. and went to go work in another division and
Of
that
the same company.
of the same company, yeah. And then just continued up the ladder from there, and actually left. I left once to go to a startup. That was like 2015.
I remember that.
We sold that startup to a big corporation, and then I worked at a competitor, and then the original company called me to come back and continue up the chain. And then 2 years ago, I resigned and left corporate America. I've been working in small businesses ever since that are still tied to that corporation. Yeah, and Call to Purpose is really my passion, and what I'd like to do is life coaching and give back, and in the corporate environment, and some of these companies that I'm currently have been working for, I have the ability to mentor and give back and be the person I wish I had, 20 years ago. So it's been a lot of fun to coach the other young women that I work with. So, yeah.
I know how much that means to you, like wishing you had someone to help you through some of the challenges that you've experienced in corporate, and like some of the roadblocks that you've shared with me.
Right. And I'm sure it was hard for you to move to a new state, not have the picture that you thought you were going to have, reporting to someone different, not sure how to navigate, right? There's no playbook for your professional career and where you head in corporate America.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That kind of leads us to Call to Purpose, where I love the fact that we can coach and give back. You've coached athletes, you've coached other people in your life, and I've coached more on the corporate side and teaching people how to be leaders and navigate the corporate life. So, Call to Purpose was founded during COVID. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. We want to connect people with coaches to get back on track. Maybe COVID threw you off track, or you want to leave corporate America and start your own company. You have challenges in life, right? We can work and divinely coach people to find their purpose and move forward in life.
I believe that people are still affected by the effects of COVID and how it changed them, and they're still trying to get out of that, whether it was for being furloughed or whatever circumstance, either family members became sick or passed away, and now they have to figure out what to do after that. So there's a lot of different challenges that people have experienced that you could help with that. So.
Right. Yeah, and one of my passions for Call to Purpose is to help stop the suicide rate, right? There's so many people that were confined at home, maybe never got back into society, and they're just deciding it's either easier not to be in this world. I do a lot of first responder coaching and give backs in that community because of my corporate history. And the suicide rate now there is higher than on-duty deaths. So there's a lot we can do to help people find their purpose, give them a reason to be here, to help each other, to give back. Yeah, so that's kind of where Call to Purpose came from, was just helping people have a reason to be here, to find their purpose, right? I still feel like I'm trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. But it feels good to give back and watch people succeed, and yeah.
I think a lot of people can, I think that will resonate with many people out there, because
Yeah.
I hear that all the time in my work now, that, I don't know, whatever I want to be this when I grow up. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And these are
Right.
adults in their 40s and 30s, 40s, 50s
Yeah.
who still are trying to find their purpose.
Yep.
And in my experience, I've found that that learning that I was created by a creator, and so he knows us better than anyone else
He does.
including ourselves.
Yeah.
And so he has given each and every one of us gifts and tools, and it's a matter of discovering what those are.
Yep.
And then building on that. I used to think I was stupid.
Really?
growing up.
Wow. I never knew that about you. Interesting.
And I don't know if it was because I had ADHD and that wasn't something that was diagnosed when I
Right.
was growing up. It
Right.
wasn't something you recognized. And
Yeah.
so I had a hard time learning.
What made you feel like you thought that? It's just a hard time learning, focusing?
I think part of that might have been my upbringing.
Okay.
I had very critical parents.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't about lifting you up. It was about, this is what you're doing wrong,
Right.
and this is what you need to do, or what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So I just thought I wasn't good at anything.
Yeah. Did you have the mantra, like, you're meant to be seen and not heard? I actually have that on the website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, even though it wasn't actually told, that's how
That's
I
how
felt.
you felt. Okay.
That, I can't say anything because they're gonna tell me to be quiet, or
Right.
That I'm out of place, or that I don't know what I'm talking about, or
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
So once I realized that God created me, and I believe in Jesus, that Jesus died for our sins so that we could have eternal life. So with that said, I know that God gave me gifts and tools, and I just had to figure out what those were.
Right. And that's one thing we want to do with the life coaches is come up with a way that we can help people pull those gifts out of them and give them a reason to be here, right?
And it's
Yeah.
all about discovering. It's already within you. It's just a matter of
Right. Yeah.
figuring out what those are, and then learning the tools on, okay, now what? Now what? Now what are we doing next?
Yeah. Yep. Very important. And that's one thing with first responders, right? I don't know if you knew what you wanted to do when you were 10 years old, but
No.
a lot of first responders are like, I'm going to be a police officer, I'm going to be a
Yes.
fireman,
Yes.
right? And then they go through their whole career, and one day they either retire or they can't perform their duties anymore for a variety of reasons, and they don't know what to do with themselves next. So I feel like that's kind of feeding into maybe the suicide rate of not wanting to be here, not feeling worthy, not knowing what your gifts are. So it's good to have a community and try to get people back, engaged and helping others. And I think giving back gives us a reason to be here and to have a purpose. Yeah.
And I think with the corporate experience that I had, that wasn't my gift.
No.
And so, and again, here
Yeah.
I am feeling like I don't belong, and that I'm not smart enough to be able to do what it takes to be in the corporate world,
Yeah.
and having no idea what my purpose is.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure with first responders, I mean, that's a huge gift in itself
It is.
already.
Yep.
But there's still more. That's not your end all be all. There's
Yeah.
still more to come after that. what
There
is
is.
it? And
Yeah.
it's different for each person, but
Right.
there is something else. It's just a matter of figuring out what it is.
Right.
So it gives that, hopefully will give them the hope to want to continue. And
Yeah. Definitely.
that's a beautiful.
And to know you then and know you now, like looking back, you really didn't fit into corporate America, right? You could kind of feel that, especially seeing you now. Toni has her business, Olive Grove Therapy, and helps athletes, people, right, feel better, fix their muscles and movement issues, right? Do you want to tell us about Olive Grove Therapy?
Sure, yes. So I started, and what brought me to that is I was doing personal training, and I had an experience. My husband at the time passed away, and so being a personal trainer wasn't going to keep me afloat,
Right.
and so I had to figure out what to do from there, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I remember working with some other people about, I used to go in to see healthcare professionals who were more about getting to the root cause of issues as opposed to putting a Band-Aid on it and giving you a medication. And I was very much interested in that already.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, well, I'm a personal trainer, and I was doing corrective exercise where I help people help their muscles that aren't working properly. I would give them exercises to do to help engage the proper muscles and to give them better movement in that way.
Okay.
But I was also learning about people who worked on muscles. So
Okay.
I was like, well, that would be cool. Like, that would be really cool if I could just work on those muscles. And so I was like, well, what do I do now?
Right.
Having no idea that massage therapy was something that something that would lead me right into that.
Right.
So that was all a prayer thing, and that was like all these doors just opened, and something that I've shared before with you about praying for, like, if this isn't your will, Lord,
Yeah.
and close the doors. So here I am with single mother now, and I had my personal training business, but again, that wasn't going to keep me going. So
Right.
I prayed about what to do, and so I started looking into either chiropractic or massage therapy or physical therapy, and
Right.
I started doing research, and this school came up that was fairly close to my house. So I went to meet with the school, like a counselor at the school.
Uh-huh.
It was like a healthcare profession school, and I went in and told them what I was interested in, and they're like, well, we have a 9-month course starting 2 weeks from now.
Oh my gosh.
And if anybody knows me, if I think about something too long, it makes me nervous and I won't
Yes.
go through with it. So I
Yep.
was like, okay. But
Sign
God
me
knew
up.
that. God knew, like, it would have to be something that I would commit. I needed to commit now, or it
Right.
wasn't going to happen, and I'd keep putting it off. So I was
Right.
like, so this was like another subject we can talk about is fear-based decisions.
Right.
I was like, okay, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because the definition of courage is
Yeah.
not the lack of fear, but being scared and doing it anyway.
Right.
So
Yeah. And if it
I-
scares you, you should do it.
you should do it.
Right?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
The Lord is going to push us out of our comfort zone, and that's just part of life. So,
Right.
so pushing through that fear.
Nice.
So I was like, okay. So I signed up. It turned out that the class started at 8:30 and ended at 2:30. My son was in school from 8:10
Oh my gosh.
to 3:15.
Wow.
So
That was a gift. Yeah.
I would drop him off, drive really fast to school, and then immediately as school ended, I would drive and
Wow.
pick up my son. So it worked out
Yep.
perfectly.
Yeah. I found when you do get on the right path towards your purpose, that things fall into place and it's easy, right? And it sounds like that, you didn't have to figure out who's going to help me, who's going to, fill the gaps where I can't be there. It just worked out perfectly.
It did. And
Yeah.
I didn't have to ask anybody for help, which, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to ask people for help. I'm not saying that, but
Right.
I didn't have to.
Right.
God worked it all out
Yeah.
for his purpose.
That's great. Have you ever tried to do something where it wasn't easy and you knew that you shouldn't go down that path?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about it?
Right into that one. I've shared this story in other podcasts about decisions that I've made that were not healthy for myself, and fear-based decisions.
Gotcha.
I had gotten into a unhealthy relationship after my husband passed away.
Okay.
And I saw the red flags but chose to ignore them. And so I kept being told, not in a way where it's audible, but just like, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt.
Right. Like he was trying to protect you.
Yeah, God kept telling me, and I just kept ignoring him.
Yeah.
And he knew he already knew what I was going to do.
Right.
And so I was making fear-based decisions. I was afraid of dealing with the pain of the loss of my husband.
Yeah.
I was afraid of being alone. I was afraid of dealing. I was just afraid.
Yeah.
I was making fear-based decisions. So if I had just dealt with the pain and the loss instead of trying to avoid, my path would have been so much smoother.
Right.
But it's crazy what your mind does to yourself when you're hurting.
Right.
And how vulnerability can really make things more difficult.
Yeah.
So,
and when you're not aware that you're hitting that wall or getting all the signs that you should stop, and I think now we've explored and evolved enough that maybe we pay more attention to that now.
Yes.
Right? And coaches can certainly help you with some of those steps on how to either accomplish a goal, find your purpose, kind of explore life to see what direction you should go in or what your gifts are. So.
And I think all of our mistakes help other people.
Yeah. And it's building blocks to get to where we are today. Yeah. Thank you, Toni, for joining us today, and I look forward to our continued discussion. Thank you for joining us. Some of the topics that we're going to go over, you've written a book, Bright Side of Broken. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some more of our clients, helping people go from being lost in life or lost in corporate America, not sure where to go, to finding their purpose and how they got to where they are today. So we look forward to sharing a lot of that with our audience, and just want to thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thank you.